Temple University Football Coaches Show, powered by the fine folks at Peerless Boilers. Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. here with you for the main event, WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. Temple is in Houston as they get ready to take on the Houston Cougars. Owls look to get their 5th win of the season, and we'll take a look at the running backs this week as we're now joined by the running back coach for the Temple Owls, and that's Tyree Foreman. Coach, Zach and Chase here on campus. How are you?
I'm good, Zach. How's everything?
Well, I'm doing great, and we appreciate a few minutes today. You definitely have to be a happy man after the performance that your running backs put up against Tulsa. Jihad Thomas really distanced himself from the pack. 14 carries, 152 yards, and caught that touchdown out of the backfield on the screen pass on 3rd down. What a performance by Jihad this past Saturday.
Yeah, it's been a good thing to see. These guys finally did come out and want to separate themselves, but Jihad taking the lead right now. Jamie also had a pretty good game, had 2 receptions for over 100 yards, so those guys are battling out right now, and look forward to see what they do this weekend.
Last week we talked to Coach Satterfield, and he talked about how he wanted one running back to go out there and distance himself from the pack, how they didn't want running back by committee. Does that mean after the performance that Jihad had up against Tulsa that he'll get the majority of the carries up against Houston?
Yeah, he's going to get the majority of the carries against Houston this week, and we're going to feature him a little bit, see if he can get it done. But those other guys won't be chomping at the bit to get in there. I know after the performance he had last week, they want to get in there and also show what they can do.
Tyree Foreman joins us right now, the Temple University running backs coach. And the running backs have just done a really good job all season long of catching the ball out of the backfield. I know Kenny Harper has caught a lot of balls. Jamie Gilmore had 2 receptions for over 100 yards last week. Jihad Thomas has had his share of catches as well. How much of a point of emphasis have you made on the running backs being skilled at catching the ball out of the backfield?
It's a huge point of emphasis. When you're not just a one-dimensional player, it's going to be hard to defend you in multiple ways. So we find that a lot of teams don't have the ability to cover running backs with their best cover guys. So it creates opportunities for them to catch the ball in the game and get an open space and make an impact on the game other ways than just handing them the ball.
Coming into the game last week, you guys were averaging under 4 yards per carry, and then Jihad Thomas just ran wild, and the offensive line did a great job of opening up the holes. But what did the O-line do last week that they weren't doing in the previous games?
I don't think it's so much what they weren't doing. I think it's just we came off the bye week with the mentality that we wanted to be physical and run the ball, and he saw us do a couple of different formations, getting under center and actually handing the tailback the ball 7 yards deep and give him a head full of steam, get to the line of scrimmage. And it's a little different with our offense because we're so much shotgun, no huddle, and go fast. But running back who comes out of high school, a lot of times just being the only guy in the backfield and get the end of the ball multiple times, they get a little bit of rhythm differently than they did in high school. So they came out with the high school mentality that we're going to get downhill and see if we can get these guys going, and they right off the bat got going.
Tyree, you've been at Temple for quite some long time as we're spending a few minutes with Tyree Foreman of the Temple University Football Coaches Show. You were here when Al Golden was here, also with Steve Adazio, and then when Matt Rule eventually got the head coaching job. And we've seen all 3 of those coaches recruit athletes, and we've seen players over the years change positions. Jihad Thomas was one of those guys. P.J. Walker in the offseason was trying to advocate for him to be on the offensive side of the ball. He moved over from corner to running back. When you have a player like that making that change, what's the toughest part of that transition?
The toughest part is making sure they learn the hand signals for us. That's the hardest part. At the position that I coach, the running back position, most of our guys on our team have played that position at some point in their time, either little league or high school. Best kid on the team was usually a running back or quarterback. So it's easy for them to understand what to do once the ball's in their hand. I just got to point them in the right direction, make sure they don't get our quarterback killed when they get in the game, and make sure they can hold the football.
PJ was very emotional after the game, and he said that he almost cried when Jihad Thomas scored that touchdown on that screen pass on what I believe was a 3rd and 17. And obviously they have such a good relationship going back to their days playing together at Elizabeth High School where they won a state championship together. Does a change like that when you move a player from corner to running back make it easier when you have the relationship with the quarterback?
A little bit. It's a little bit for PJ. He gets overzealous when Todd's in there and tries to throw the ball every single play, but when a kid comes over and he has a security blanket like he does in PJ, it makes it easy for him to know that it's a familiar setting that he's going to be in.
When Jihad made the switch from cornerback to running back, he was almost last on the depth chart, but because of a couple injuries and a couple of breaks here and there and some of the plays that he made during training camp, he worked himself into the rotation, into getting some playing time. But he's got great cutback ability, Coach.
Oh, he does. He's very, very explosive in and out of his cuts. He has really, really good vision, and he's quick as heck. So he has the ability to change the game whenever the ball's in his hand, and that's what we look forward to seeing him do.
With all the running back depth that you have, you kind of have like a earth, wind, and fire approach. That's got to make your job pretty easy, knowing that you can throw out any type of running back out there. Not only are they going to have success, but they're going to bring a different style to the field.
Yeah, it's easy and it's hard because each game requires a different approach, so you never know who's going to have the hot hand that day. And then I tell them, practice dictates who's going to start the game, but the way you play is going to dictate who plays the most. So go out there and just let it loose and see what happens as the game goes on.
Kenny Harper was a guy last year who was a touchdown machine. He's one of the leaders on the offensive side of the ball, being this is his senior year. But so far through the season, he's only had 35 attempts for 113 yards, put up 2 touchdowns. How do you guys get Kenny Harper going rushing the football?
For him, it's about the game plan and the situations of the game that we're going to be in. He's a big pounding, bruising back, and he also protects the quarterback very well. Those other guys are a little bit shifty, a little bit quicker than what he is. So, like I said before, it depends on the style of the game and which we're playing that day. If we want to line up and beat teams up, you'll want to see probably Kenny in there getting the bulk of the carries. If we want to try to run these guys ragged and get them tired and run all over the field, those other guys might be in there.
I know you touched on this a little bit, but Jamie Gilmore had a sensational game last year up against Memphis, and he came into this year, was expecting to get a lot more touches, and on Saturday he had those 2 catches out of the backfield for over 100 yards, had a real nice game. How nice is it to have a running back that could be dynamic, because we've seen a lot of that this year where the running backs go out there, they run the ball hard in between the tackles, and then they're not afraid to go out there and catch a route off a hook route.
It's great. It's great the fact that our offense relies on those guys to make plays all over the field and not just turn around and hand the ball. We can line up that bar receiver. We can catch the ball out of the backfield. We can protect. We can do a lot of different things. We can also put 2 guys in the backfield at one time and have a playmaker at almost every position. It gets a little hard sometimes when you have all those guys who can make plays and then one of them is in the game at one time. So it's a little frustrating at times, but it's also a good problem to have.
Running backs coach Tyree Foreman joins us right now on the main event, WHIP Radio here in Philadelphia. And, Coach, Matt Rule has praised freshman David Hood for what he's been able to do. And he got some touches in that game against Delaware State. He had an impressive 40 time coming into Temple. But what does he bring to the table? Because it looks like he has a bright future as well.
He has a super bright future. He's very explosive, very fast, very quick. The college game is something that he's learning more and more about each and every day. So we're excited about what he's going to be able to bring to the future, and I think that he's going to be one of the names we're going to hear for the next 4 years as one of our leaders and one of our most explosive players.
You've been here since 2007. Real quickly, how have you seen the attitude of the coaches and players change since you got here up until now? Because the players are buying into this program right now. They're buying into what you guys are preaching, and it's paying off on the football field.
Whenever you come to a new situation, it's always the hardest thing is convincing them that what you're saying is what needs to be done to be successful. And each coaching change has brought a little bit different mentality to what we want to get done. But the essence of what we want to be, a tough physical football team that's going to outwork teams, has never changed. So once we got that, understand that, hey, we want to go out and outwork teams, out-hit teams, outrun teams, and out-condition them. It's find success in that. And then they can buy into it more. And for the older kids, they can mentor the young guys and, hey, this is how we do things. And once you buy in, you're going to be very successful.
Obviously, you and Matt have a relationship from back in the days where you guys were both on Al Golden's staff and eventually on Steve Adazio's staff as well. Ed Foley's one of those guys that has been here before in this program. And every time you hear one of you guys talk, it's about trusting the process. Like Chase mentioned, when you go in the facility, you see tweets that say trust the process and all that stuff. When you guys sit down there late at night or pitch it to a recruit, what do you want that Temple brand to look like when it's traveling across the nation with that Temple tee?
Well, we want everyone back in Philadelphia to be proud of the team. That we come from a hard blue-collar city that's going to go out and just get up every single day and work as hard as they can. And that's what we want our kids to do. We want to be physical. We want to outwork teams each and every day. We don't want to focus on the outcomes of anything. We just want to get up every day, put our nose to the grindstone, and out battle people when they're not even in front of us.
Last week was a special week because it was homecoming. You guys had so many former Owls on the sideline. We had Steve Maneri on our show the other day. Muhammad Wilkerson was there. A lot of those guys from the Broncos and the Jets came on down that were former Temple Owls. Just how nice is it to see some of those guys still have their foot in the program and continue to come back and support Temple?
It's really nice when you see guys who've made it to the ultimate level come back and have a care for these guys that we have here to, hey, you can get there too. Just look at those guys. None of those guys that you mentioned were actually probably recruited kids out of high school. They came here and they worked their tails off and got opportunity to display their talents at the highest level.
Do you still talk to Bernard at all? Because he's getting some carries up there in Baltimore with the whole Ray Rice situation.
I do, and he's focused on getting back and getting healthy and making sure that everything's going in his favor. But keep in touch with Matt, Farm, and Bernard, and just wanted to make sure that those guys always know that this program's here for them.
Final one here with the running backs coach from Temple University, Tyree Foreman. Coach, this Houston defense, they forced a lot of turnovers. I think Matt said it was 30 straight games that they forced a turnover there. They have a knack for punching out that football. How do you make sure that your guys don't turn over the football? Because I ultimately believe whoever goes out there and produces the less turnovers is going to win this game.
That's exactly right. And what we do every day is we focus on ball security and make sure we have the 4 points ball security and we'll get traffic covering up with 5 points. So we want to make sure that every ball carrier in the game, whether it's a running back, quarterback, receiver, is going to make sure that they protect that football with everything they have because, like you said, whoever missed the least amount of turnovers is probably going to win this game, and we don't want to be on the other end of it.
Coach, well, we appreciate the time. Best of luck going up against Houston. Should be a fun game in Texas under the lights. We appreciate a few minutes, and we'll talk again real soon.